then アファの話ちょっと全部一回まとめてちょっと話して、その後に guardian, then affirmative observation, then negative task, then affirmation. Rejection, guardian, affirmative observation, negative task, then affirmation. Okay, I'd like to start now. Maybe for the negative paradigm, when we should say that we should decommission MPPs because of energy policies, they never show any advantages of keeping decommissioning MPPs, right? For negative paradigm, in terms of negative paradigm. So they show no ADs in negative paradigm. So in negative paradigm, we absolutely win any refutation strategy. And then maybe I want to confirm maybe affirmative stance. They admit, please cross apply QA time. They admit that reasonable interpretation should be taken. This is a round consensus. And also they admit that the affirmative side and negative side exist, right? They may be saying they're in construction speech that the affirmative side and the negative side exist in debate game. So this is a round consensus. Then when we have affirmative paradigm and negative paradigm, I like to show comparison. The affirmative side show that there is all things have a natural cycle. So all things decommission at some times. So at that time, if you follow the affirmative paradigm, there's no negative ground, right? Because all things come to an end. All things come to an end. So initially there's no negating such resolution. So there's initially no negative ground. And then when we follow the negative paradigm, we talk about the Japanese government and the policy making, and we talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of the MPP, right? So whether we should decommission MPPs purposely, not like naturally decommission, purposely if we should decommission. So at the time, the advantage and disadvantage stands. And then this can be maybe the more reasonable interpretation, because they admit the affirmative side and negative side exist. Maybe they say that there's two sides in the debate game, but they say that they should follow the affirmative paradigm, which does not have a negative ground, does not have negative ground. And this can be the reason to follow the affirmative interpretation, the negative interpretation. And then moving on to guardian. Okay, maybe they so like against the article, but no article means general. They said that generally it is affirmed or something. And then like there's all means general or something. However, they just say that general does not mean all. But however, in the actual evidence level, it says the tigers are dangerous animals. Quote parentheses all tigers. So in terms of evidence level, it clearly states that all things. And then at that time, when they say they affirm the resolution that they should decommission MPPs, how can they say that they affirm all the resolution when they only decommission MPPs in the future, not in the present time? And maybe they said like, when does it say we have to decommission MPPs in the present or something? And they never exclude affirmative interpretation. But they surely admit that we should take the reasonable interpretation, right? So we never have to exclude affirmative like future ground. We never have to exclude future ground because they admit that we should take the reasonable interpretation. And then maybe my partner talks about the death example, the dying death example, then I'd like to maybe reconstruct. Maybe when the resolution is maybe maybe person A should die. Maybe person A should die, right? Maybe this person A is a good person or a bad person. We debate, right? And maybe when we say that we should maybe this person should die, why do we say that this person will die eventually? Maybe, why do we say this person will die eventually? Because he is too old or something. No, sorry. So when there's a resolution, when we say this person should die, if we take the affirmative interpretation, they will say that this person should die because all people die. But this is irrational, right? Because all people die. But it is a more reasonable interpretation to talk about if the person is a good person or maybe a bad person, right? Because then it's more reasonable to understand it that way, right? Maybe in the courts or maybe the debate game, maybe when we talk about the affirmative side and negative side, maybe we don't naturally talk about the things that don't have maybe an opposite argument, right? Because everybody dies. So we don't talk about if this person will die, because he will die. But we want to talk about if he should die. This is the desirability, right? The desirability. Maybe this is a more reasonable way to interpret desirability. Because yes, everybody dies, but if you want to show the desirability of this person, maybe saying that everybody dies is not the desirability of such argument. And then moving on to harmful observation. Okay, they say that they want to say that removed from service, right? But initially, what is removed from service? What is removed from service? Because like when we say the MPPs, right, the nuclear power plants are reconstructed. Maybe they destroy the buildings, right, and then they reconstruct the same building. They reconstruct the MPPs in the same facility, right? But then at that time, is the service really being removed? Because the service continues, right? They just use a new building. They just use a new building. The service initially continues. At least I can maybe show a minor repair that maybe better policy. Maybe we can reform the MPPs. We can reform MPPs. This is maybe a better policy. Instead of maybe destroying the building, we rather reform the building. And this is a better policy. Maybe the cost can be the superiority of minor repair. And then please move on to maybe a harmful task. Okay, so maybe to simply also extend my partner speech about maybe the construct and the decommission. So today's resolution, it's only never in the resolution does it say that we have to decommission just the constructed MPPs. Never say that we decommission the constructed MPPs. Maybe the new types of MPP also include, right? Maybe that we make new MPPs in the future. However, so maybe they have to negate, they have to affirm that, they have to say that all MPPs, maybe I can say better. Maybe they just say that the constructed MPPs will be decommissioned. But also, never in the resolution does it say we debate about the MPPs already in Japan, right? There may be new MPPs in the future or so that comes to Japan, new technology or so. And this can be, and then at that time, why did we talk about if this should be decommissioned or so? So maybe this is going to be also the overspecification argument. And then maybe move on to affirmation. And they maybe show a car example or something, that stop using old cars or so. However, this rather supports our argument, because maybe I can also apply the same understanding to this example. When we say we should stop using this car, we don't talk about if this car eventually stop using this car. We talk about if this car is maybe dangerous or so. Because maybe when I say, maybe if you want to talk about if this car eventually ends, maybe we should say maybe this car will eventually end, because this is not a question. Because maybe the resolution is a question showing the two options. So, but why would the resolution be interpreted when there's only one answer? Because when we say the car, we stop using the cars. Of course we stop using the cars, right? Because the cars, obviously we stop using everything after following affirmative type. So please do that. Maybe your example is that when we say the car example, we should stop using old cars or something, or we should stop using cars or something. When we say the desirability, when we talk about the desirability, we have to show that maybe the advantage to take the plan, right? But I want to say that of course we stop using all cars. Of course, all cars come to an end. So initially there is no maybe area to debate about, or maybe there is no such thing as desirability.
Is it desirability, right?
What?
Because we are following the natural life cycle, and if the lifetime comes, we will decommission. It is a desirable, right?
Why can you say no? Because you say that you just say that it comes to a life cycle, right? So when you say the natural life cycle, all things have such a life cycle, right? So at that time, you don't talk about the desirability of something that happens eventually.
Okay, so next question. 優勝のアファーティブノテーション。優勝がマイナーペア、like reform NPP or something. And your superiority is possible or something, right?
You say that again?
Your minor pair is reform NPP or something. And
Oh,
this
yeah.
superiority is cost or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yes.
However, terminal station will happen because we need a maintenance cost or because efficiency will be broken because our evidence shows that
Maybe.
there is a limitation of NPP.
Maybe this is just refutation.
Okay, and you said that we should take the reasonable interpretation or something.
Yes.
However, why you can say that negative side of interpretation is reasonable?
Maybe I show many examples, but maybe the main argument is that maybe the affirmative interpretation only has one affirmative ground, has no negative ground. The negative interpretation has an affirmative and a negative ground. So this can be the superiority of taking a reasonable interpretation.
Why the negative side not? Why you can say in the affirmative area, why you cannot negate the resolution in under the affirmative policy?
Or maybe just simply follow the affirmative interpretation.
Okay. And it is, you say that it is unfair or something. And
No,
it is
no,
unfair.
maybe I don't say it's unfair. I just say maybe affirmative interpretation is that all things come to an end, right? At that time, there's no negative ground, right?
Why?
Because you want to say that you want to say that all things come to an end, but you say the negative task is to deny that all things come to an end. But maybe if you follow the affirmative interpretation, there is all things come to an end. So there is initially no negative ground, right?
Okay. And you show the minor pair or something. So you can negate the resolution. You have a way, right? So why you can say so?
You have a way. Oh, maybe for rejection.
Then you show the minor
Oh,
pair.
maybe.
You can successfully
Oh,
negate.
yes, because affirmative side never show the advantages of decommissioning MPP.
Very simple. Before ending my speech, I was on my